Welcome back to West China Tea and Whiskey Provisioner. We've got our special guest today, Daniel Whittington of the Academy of Wizards, and officially recently became a Kentucky gentleman.
Yeah, well, it's not a gentleman. It's
Certified
it's military
Kentucky gentleman.
Colonel. Which I had to Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
Colonel Daniel.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
In Kentucky.
Yeah.
And it has something to do with chicken? Nothing to do with chicken?
It feels like it should. But I'm vegetarian,
Kentucky.
so that would be kind of complicated for me. Yeah, it's a maybe send me some
impossible
fried.
chicken.
Yeah, some
Fried
impossible chicken. Yeah. No, it turns out it's a fundraising organization that people just do raise money to do good work in the state of Kentucky.
Well, that sounds perfect because you do good work right here in the state of Texas.
That's cool.
I was like, I guess I'm a Kentucky Colonel now. What would be the Texas version of that, I wonder?
Texas gentleman?
Ranger?
Yeah, Texas Rangers. We've already got that though.
Yeah.
They actually did this with Cracker Barrel. They had Cracker Barrel country gentlemen.
Like ambassadors, basically.
Ambassadors for the Cracker Barrel.
That's fair.
Really? Like brand ambassadors?
Brand
Do they dress up in like Southern gentleman
Go
attire?
around the community and buy
I might take that
dinner.
job.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It's
I
a
like
great
Cracker Barrel.
retirement job.
I actually have lots of like inside tea on Cracker Barrel because a good friend of mine used to work there and he was like in management.
New episode.
Yeah, I heard all kinds of stuff about Cracker Barrel, so another episode.
There you go. But today we're going to be talking about whiskey and tea. And Sohan, this has been, 8 weeks now since we've been in the tea house. So you're starving for whiskey, I'm starving for tea, and I just hit my mic.
I'm starving for whoop.
Yeah, I haven't had, aside from that tiny little sip I had when we were putting tea in that whiskey barrel, I haven't had a sip of whiskey since that last show. So There we go. I'm very excited.
Put tea in a whiskey barrel.
That little whiskey barrel. That little whiskey barrel is full of tea
I
now.
have some tea from like tea leaves, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have some Tomatin whiskey tea. Tomatin's a Scottish distillery.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and it's not screwing around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to try that sometime. Well, we can do an AB when this is mature. We'll do an AB. Yeah. And the tea that I put in that whiskey barrel is the tea that we're going to start with today.
All right.
It's this Manhua Sheng. I feel so abundant with it because we have so much of it because we got it to stuff in this barrel. We didn't know how much we're going to need. So let's give that a little smell. It doesn't have a whole lot of fragrance yet because it's still cold, but I want to warm it up. But you give it a.
It just smells a little floral.
Yep. Little floral, faintly vegetal.
Yeah.
This is puer, but it's Sheng Pu'er, the original kind of puer. So we think of puer, we think of Sheng Pu'er, which is the dark, earthy, fermented puer. That's most people are familiar with. Sheng Pu'er is the unfermented version. It's the original version. This is what people did with puer before 1972 when they developed the technique for doing the advanced processing. And then this would just, on its own, by virtue of existing for a long time, age, ferment, turn dark and earthy, and get to be like that Sheng Pu'er. They invented Sheng Pu'er, the process for fermenting it, to emulate what
that becomes.
What this becomes. Exactly.
Does it literally just sit like harvest leaf, just let them sit out, and that's how they get stringy and
It's
small?
usually in they pick it, they cook it. Each one of these is like a leaf, and when we're done, you'll see how leafy they are. They'll just look like leaves.
When they unfurl.
When they unfurl, and they pick it, they cook it in a wok. They do give it a little massaging. Sometimes these guys do on Nanhua Mountain. They do. Or Manhua, this Li Shuin, this is where he made this Manhua. They'll massage it, then they'll sprinkle it out on a mat and they'll sun dry it, and that's what makes puer special.
And then how do you store it?
Then you either store it. You can store it loose, but traditionally it would have been in.
Oh, that's what those bricks are.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Round ones are called beings, which means cookie. Square ones are called, or rectangular ones are called zhuan, which means brick. There's tuos that look like a little bowl, but traditionally it would have been pressed into this. So you got one of these sitting there, aging and getting older and older. And look, it's got a date on the back. This one's 2022. So just like a bottle of whiskey, you've got a vintage specific to this particular unit. And you can expect this to get better with age.
So the little coins that you have, those are just an emulation of that?
They're just like a little mini version.
A little mini version? Is that modern?
Modern. 2017 is the first time I saw these. But yeah, each one of these is just a little
cookie.
single serving cookie. Yeah,
Nice.
single serving mini.
Like a Nova wafer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this is one pot of tea.
So in whiskey, older doesn't mean better, it means different. past a certain point. So there's a threshold in the early days where it's definitely too young. But then past a certain threshold, it's just older's different, and it's just a matter of taste. Is it the same thing with tea? Or is there a definitely like, there's a sweet spot you're aiming for before it too is not great, after it not great? You really got to hit that window?
It, obviously, it's going to be subjective at one level, but mostly older's better. For the most part,
just
it never gets worse.
Oh, okay.
Unless you don't like the taste of fermented tea. So like white tea, for example, you've got aged white tea. White tea is not by its nature fermented. It's raw, it's been dried in the sun, it's oxidizing. So it starts off unoxidized. It takes about 7 years to oxidize. And they say 1 year tea, 3 years medicine, 7 years treasure for white tea specifically.
Okay.
And so they think it peaks at 7 years.
Okay.
But that's because the people who make and grow and drink white tea don't like the taste of fermented tea because it's not part of their culture. But you go west, people do like the taste of fermented tea. So some people will say, oh, white tea peaks at 7 years, drink it at 7 years. Some people, like myself, I like a white tea that's gone past 7 years. I will continue to drink it and enjoy it more. Is there something that it loses? Yes. There's notes that are there in the beginning that are not going to be preserved, 15, 20 years later. And then it becomes a matter of taste. But the chi of the tea, which is what makes it valuable, which is the way it makes you feel, does get better as it ages. So almost universally, the oldest tea that we have like on the website right now, I have 1964. That's like secret stash. I just sold some to my friend the other day whose dad's birthday is about to happen, and he was born in 1964.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, but I don't have much of that. But the oldest tea that we saw on the website is from 1990, and I remember that the day that we got it, I had drank it once in China, and I didn't drink it again until like a year and a half later when we finally bought some. The day we got it, and it's expensive, super expensive. I opened it up and I drank it, and I was like, this is why we drink old tea. I was like, it really demonstrated like what is the value of that age statement, to use a whiskey word. Like, what is the value of that age statement? It reminded me like, oh, older is better. It's not just different. It's different and it's better. And some people might not prefer it older, but I think the vast majority of tea drinkers who like aged tea will always like it older. That said, I'm not like an age queen. I don't care about the age. I care if the tea is good.
That's fair.
For a given tea, I might be like, this tea is really good, and I'm excited to see how it's going to be in 5 years. But I'm not out there hunting for vintages.
That reminds me of your graduation ceremony at the Whiskey Marketing School. You have a special pour, and half the time it tends to be an older, rarer spirit as that special pour at graduation.
It's mostly because rarer tends to be older, generically. Like, that's not as true now with a bunch of craft distilleries.
Right.
Now you can get something that's really rare that's young because it's craft, but nobody can get it, and there were only 50 bottles. But when you're talking the big brands, for them, rare is almost always tied to age because they don't often vary production methods.
Right.
That's changing now with a lot of finishes, and you'll get weird special editions of things all the time these days. What do you call it? The Mizunara barrel Japanese oaks and
edition releases.
Yeah. Oof.
So give this guy a smell now that it's been warmed up a little bit.
Oh, all the earth came back out to the front.
Yeah, and it's not wet yet. I haven't rinsed it yet. It's just hot.
Just
a little bit warm.
Was it just a hot container you dumped the water out of?
Yeah, okay. I just warmed up my Gaiwan to get it ready, and now then I put it in, shook it around a little bit, and I'm just giving this a full temp. This is my favorite type of tea. This is the green puer, the Sheng Pu'er. They call it raw puer sometimes, although all puer is cooked. And the only difference between this and the puer that we're usually familiar with is that these leaves would then be taken, they'd be piled up, they'd be wet down, turned like compost, do that for 40 days, and that's Sheng Pu'er.
Okay.
So these leaves, just like they call this Malcha, hairy tea, because it's all fluffy like that. It's not pressed yet. That's what you would do with that to make that Sheng Pu'er. And I'll go ahead and give this one to Chancellor, and we'll give this tea a rinse. Now smell it once more, now that it's really awake.
Oh yeah,
this is going to be the most robust.
It's getting, I would almost say pungent.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
It's reminding me of like my aunt and uncle's farm and ranch.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
Like agriculture and animal.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. It's a very agricultural. What are you going to say?
Mushrooms and soy sauce for some reason.
Well, now I'm hungry. That sounds delicious.
And break. Let's go get dinner.
Onigiri. I definitely, you're smelling, it's not old tea. This is only maybe a year. This 2023, I think, is this tea. But you are starting to smell the beginning of that fermentation process. And the reason it reminds you of a farm is because you got hay on a farm, you got alfalfa on a farm. Those are leaves, grass, sitting around, slowly turning into dirt. And that's what this is. Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
This past weekend, I was trying some rye whiskey from Fierce Whiskers, and that had a really grain heavy.
Yeah, it's very grainy.
Yeah.
It feels young.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna smell, slurp it, and then exhale through your nose after you swallow.
Is that to preserve what flavors are sort of resting in your mouth?
It's to get a different note. So you smell the leaves, and you smell the tea, and you smell one thing, and then on the exhale you smell something else, and you will notice it more with the next tea that we drink.
Yeah.
Sheng Pu'er is very not complex.
Yeah.
It's got a very straightforward, like bright,
Simple.
grassy, slightly floral, kind of very straightforward taste.
The florals come back on the smell of this for me.
Yep. Yep. And then on that exhale is also where you get like that spring onion floral quality that maybe doesn't come in the nose, but it comes out the nose when you breathe out.
Which is what Sohan's been saying with all of our whiskey guests. We tend to analyze through sense and smell and memory. For Sohan, a lot more of it has to do with feeling. How does it make you feel?
How does it make you feel? Yeah, yeah. And that's
Yeah, I really like I've been thinking about whiskeys that way. I think about them that way when I blend. And so it started me thinking that way as I sip on things. Like, how does the actual physical feeling in your mouth feel? How does it spread out and grab your chest?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In Chinese.
But we get the retronasal. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, I was going to say in Chinese, that feeling in your mouth. How does it spread through your mouth? We call that the huigan, the returning sweetness. How does it spread through your body? It's called the tigan, the body feel. And there's the hoyuan in the throat. How does it resonate in the throat? So what you're talking about is exactly what I'm talking about. How does it feel? Not just how does it taste and smell, but how does it feel in your body?
Yeah, absolutely. You can recognize certain craft distilleries from simply how it lingers in the bottom of the throat, which is Balcones.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's not as much anymore. That's altered a little bit, but early days Balcones, it always stuck right here and just wouldn't. It was just there forever.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, that's Balcones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the Chinese tea paradigm, those aspects of the way the tea hits, and tea is a little bit different because it doesn't have alcohol in it. So when you're feeling that thing in your tongue, what is it you're feeling? It's not exactly the same. The way those feel and the way that you feel as far as your mood, your energy levels, your internal monologue, whether you get a relaxing or a stimulating or a psychedelic effect from this tea, all those things in the nose, the mouth, the throat, and the body, and in your mind, those are one phenomenon. That's one continuous phenomenon that's being experienced in different ways in different parts of the body. So I haven't had this batch of this tea, and I notice it's pretty soft, so I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with it so it can stand up to this whiskey. And I picked this one because we talked a little bit about your whiskey lineup before we started, and I was like, okay, I like to try and match the teas to the whiskeys.
Yeah,
so I'd love to hear a little bit about the whiskey you're starting with.
So I just brought some bottles from my house. So that's why they're mostly consumed. But these are not old bottles. This is my house whiskey. Like if I don't want to think about it, I just want to, I know I'm going to enjoy it. But I just want background whiskey. I'm going to read a book or sit outside and, you know what I mean? Or we're going to watch a movie, but I just want a glass where we're talking. I'm just going to pour whiskey, but not be distracted by the whiskey. I like Powers. Right. And Powers is one of the original Irish whiskey brands that, 1800s in the Powers family. And it's part of the original line that ended up being consumed is the wrong word, but dissolved into the conglomerate that became Middleton. Okay. Which makes Jameson and Powers and Redbreast and all the major brands that you know at the Middleton distillery. But the cool thing about this one is this is a blend, which means it uses a little bit of a grain whiskey base and then has typically in Scotland would be a malt whiskey for rounding out, right? Okay. So you start with almost what Americans would consider to be vodka, but not quite. Age it in a barrel. And then that's your base because it's simple and it's a lot more affordable to make it. And then you add the big, rich, heavy pot still whiskeys to it and blend it, and it makes it more approachable and consistent.
Got it.
The Irish style is a mix of unmalted and malted barley. That's Irish pot still
And
whiskey.
that's what makes Irish whiskey
The pot still.
distinctive. The pot still.
Yeah,
So
that's unique to Ireland.
because I know Irish
originally
whiskey.
anyway.
I love Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
And I was always, and I know a little bit more about Scotch whiskey now and bourbon and
Yeah.
other types of whiskey, rye from doing this show. But this is the first time that we've really gone deep with what makes Irish whiskey besides being from Ireland.
If it says pot still, this one doesn't because it's a blend. But if it said Power's pot still Irish whiskey, that means it has unmalted barley mixed in with the malted barley.
Gotcha.
Right, that was
Gotcha.
a early days thing, and a lot of people say it was to avoid taxes from the English, which it kind of was, but they were already doing it. All it did was solidify a practice that already existed.
Okay.
And but it gives it that unique Irish flavor. And should I steal some of these glasses right here?
Those
Yeah,
are for you.
that's what they're for.
Okay. So that unique to Irish note is what made me fall in love with whiskey in general.
Yeah.
But it had it to me. I'll not tell you. I'll tell you after you try it. What I consider to be the hallmark, and this is a budget one, so it's going to be a little bit shinier,
Beautiful.
a little less dense and viscous. But cheers to y'all. Here's to us and them that's like us.
Cheers.
Down
And also to the last episode of this show to be filmed at this tea house.
That's right. I just heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So
cheers to the tea house.
So what do you smell?
I got vanilla. Mm-hmm. I got
Do that same thing. That retro nasal.
retronasal
It
effect.
really works.
I get the wood.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely very. I know y'all hate this word, but it's smooth. It's nice. It's smooth. I just drank. I had a sip of something cast strength right before this, so you know, it's relatively smooth.
I love that smooth. If it's used as a texture, it's highly accurate.
Right.
If it's used as a tasting note, it doesn't. It's
Right.
meaningless for
Right.
communication.
Right.
So I don't actually care about the word smooth. It's just meaningless.
Right.
Until you start talking about what you said. How does it feel?
Right.
And that's when the word smooth can come into play and be highly effective. I think.
Yeah, and it's that that's what I mean. Is it's smooth. It doesn't have. It's not rough. It's not grabbing onto my tongue. It doesn't have a lot of viscosity. It's
Like
very.
if this was a cloth.
Yeah.
What type of cloth would it be?
Exactly. It would be like a silkier or you know like
maybe like a rough satin.
satin. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say satin. Exactly.
Yeah.
Smooth like satin.
Yeah.
And in a nice, it's very nice. It is very approachable. I could see it being like a really great like. I'm trying to read a book. I'm trying to watch cartoons or whatever. I want some whiskey while I'm doing it.
Yeah, just-
and then I can just chill on this whiskey. I don't feel like I'm insulting someone by not paying rapt attention to the whiskey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Green
Yeah.
melon. I'm getting
Okay.
a green
Right.
melon.
All right.
Like honeydew melon.
Okay. I can
But
see
not
it.
ripe yet.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a little bit of the rind to it.
You know, sometimes you get those melon drinks. You ever have those Japanese melon flavored drinks? Gum.
not.
They're really into the melon flavor, and they've got this very particular melon flavor that you see all throughout Japan and Japanese like consumer packaged goods, and that I can see a little bit of that.
And as you said gum, and now that popped into my head too. There's like almost like a hint of bubble gum.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's an actual chemical that shows up in fermentations. There's always a little bit of what I call shortbread cookie to pot still Irish whiskey, and it reminds me of those like little shortbreads you get in the tin at Christmas time from various stores.
I was going everywhere but there on purpose.
all right. So
Yeah, that's
so save
one's
some.
always there.
Save
Yeah.
some for the pairing though. Or
Okay.
if you I
Let
don't
me
know
try
if you
this
say
one.
you're trying to empty your bottles. If you're trying to empty your bottles, I'm not
Yeah.
driving. If you want to add more, then you can add more. But yeah, try a little bit of that, and then what I like to do.
hey, that got bitter.
Yeah. I made it long. I brought it out so that we can have that tea and taste it against the whiskey,
Yeah.
side by side with the whiskey. So I brought out some more of that astringency, like you get from the tannins in the oak.
The fruit is popping out of the glass now on the whiskey.
Yeah, let's see. So I like to actually chase the whiskey with the tea, and I'll take a
Yeah.
sip of the whiskey. Yeah, I like that. I like that pairing.
Yeah. There's a little more bitterness on the tea after the whiskey.
And you get that fruit skin, kind of like a fruit skin.
Yeah, it's astringent. It almost makes me feel like it's got an eyebrow raised now. Like before it was kind of nice, and now it's a little bit like, got attitude.
Oh yeah,
A place to hold the monocle.
So
Yeah,
that was the
it's
second
like,
steeping. This is the third steeping.
Yeah.
So this is again a little bit deeper into the process. This tea probably peak around the 7th steeping, 6th or 7th steeping is when we're
Go
gonna
back
peak.
into that whiskey glass, and it's just so fruit forward now.
Yeah, all the fruit that wasn't there in the nose originally
Yeah.
is now starting to show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
One of the best things that you can do with whiskey, if you're not, I mean, just in general, but especially if you're not used to trying to smell past ethanol, right?
Yeah.
If you're used to smelling something that you don't have to struggle past a primary
Sure,
chemical
yeah,
strain to get
exactly.
to things,
Yeah.
then one of the fastest ways to really get great notes out of whiskey is to dump the whiskey out or drink it.
Smell empty. Yeah.
And then blow into it to get the ethanol fumes out, but all the lingering oils, then you'll get everything that was left behind. Yeah, you can also do it on your hands.
Do it with the teacup. It's
Yeah,
called the Leng
same
Xiao.
thing.
Yeah, it's called the Leng Xiao. When you finish the cup, you smell it, you wave it, you roll it between your hands, and then you smell it again, you wave it, you roll it between your hands, you smell it again, and as it cools, you're going to get a different profile emerging. And
Are there
usually ends up being
oils
sweet.
in the...
There are oils in tea. It's not oily. It's not as oily as coffee, but it's there are oils in tea, and there's a lot of volatile things in tea that when you drain the cup, right, the composition of the aromatic compounds that are inside the cup, the empty cup, is basically identical to what the tea was. But those are present in different concentrations, and they evaporate at different rates. And so as you smell the empty cup, it's like one instrument section at a time leaving an orchestra in the mid-symphony. It changes the whole timbre of the piece of music. And so that's what happens. And it's always one of my favorite things to do with people coming in on their first time is smell your empty cup, wave it around, smell it again. And the first couple of times they do it, they're like, uh-huh. And then it hits them like, oh, whoa, it changed. And that's always like a big aha moment for people. Yeah, that's funny because I've been doing
It's
this
softened
show.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, third steeping, I hit it a little bit faster this time, and just to get a little bit of a balance, because that first taste of the whiskey, I want the tea to really pop hard, and then after that, I feel like you can go back to a little bit mellower infusion, because, I mean, I'm out of whiskey, but if you're tasting the whiskey with it, you've gotten over that ethanol taste, you've already been hit with that ethanol, so your palate is used to it.
It reminds me of a sauna, or when you're.
Yeah.
This is very much.
Cedar, that's what a sauna
Yeah.
smells like, a cedar. Yes, hot cedar.
Very much so.
Yeah, and then that lung show, you got to get every last drop out of there, wave it around, smell it, wave it around. It takes a second, and then you get about 30 seconds.
Oh, like raspberry.
Yeah, yeah. It's very different, and it's very distinctive, and
Yeah.
it really pops out. Yeah,
And that sort of tangy sweetness.
yeah, and like a dried, like you spilled a syrupy drink on something and then dried out.
Yeah.
Same thing if you go back to your empty whiskey glass.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same type of effect.
There's something in here.
Yeah, this is like cream soda now. Mm-hmm. This one's like cream
Oh,
soda.
I know. This is like antique shop
Wood.
mixed with potpourri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that sweetness. It's got that musky kind of sweetness. That musky,
Yeah, like you
aged
walked
wood
in and
sweetness.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you're also smelling like the linens that people use to
Yeah,
cover tables
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They get that fabric-y smell.
Yeah. It definitely has an antique smell.
That's wild that it keeps escalating.
Yeah. You got about 30 seconds of that, and then it's done.
Yeah.
Then it goes to just a cup again.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. It put me in a sauna and it put you in a potpourri shop.
Well, I guess I've spent more time in a potpourri shop, and you spent more time in a sauna.
Is that big in Canada? Do people
Actually, in some places it is. There are hot springs that are very popular where people in the wintertime like to hang out in the hot springs. Very much similar to the cultures in like Iceland and places like that. But it depends on the area of Canada, with that have hot springs, some don't. So jacuzzis and saunas are also a big part. When you're a winter culture,
You got to find some way to survive.
Yeah,
Not go mad.
The Finns are into it. I'm like, Canada's cold.
This is why we have swimming pools in Texas. This is the opposite version. And
We got
survive the
swimming pools
summer.
and barbecue, so you don't have to cook inside.
Yeah.
Heat up your house.
man, Daniel, this stuff is really good.
It is nice. I like it a lot. And
It's so simple too. I mean, it's like $30 a bottle. It's a house pour. Somebody could mix it with something or dump it out or not finish their glass, and then you'd be like, "That's fine."
Yep.
But you still just keep coming back to it.
Yeah. No, it's nice, and it's nice to It's nice for the summer.
Yeah.
When it's 100 degrees outside, which it is, and it's nice for. I'm always drinking like these like cask strength, like 50-year-old, like double oaked, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff on this show, and they tend to be really
because whiskey
funky.
nerds like to screw with you a little bit. Yeah.
They tend to be really funky, really rich, really kooky stuff. And it is nice to drink something that's so straightforward.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. And I like it with the tea, which again, very straightforward. No age, no age on this tea.
Yeah.
It's not smoked, it's not purple, it's not ancient tree tea. There's no special adjectives. It's just some very straightforward, also a very inexpensive tea, but one that I love drinking.
Yeah.
When people ask me, I say my favorite, favorite type of tea is Sheng Pu'er. We have all these fancy Sheng Pu'ers. They say, "What's your favorite?" I'm like, right now, I drink Manala Sheng like all the time. It's not old, and it doesn't have a bunch of credentials. It's just a good, solid tea, and I can drink it while I'm watching cartoons. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sitting with this whiskey, I'm realizing I think this bottle is older than I realized. Like I thought it was only about a month old, but I think it's probably closer to 2 or 3 because I'm smelling oxidation in this whiskey too. And the way that's going to come across in your empty glass, or even smell mine again, if you want to. There's still a little dash in there. Is a slight rubber note. That's like
I know that note from whiskey. I know
like
that
it was
rubber
served
band,
through rubber band kind of
We see that a lot more in rum. That rubber band note. Yeah.
For this, that just means it sat too long without too high amount of air in it.
Got it.
And it oxidized a little.
Got it.
Cool. So you've got some fundraisers going on at the Wizard Academy
We
right
got all
now.
kinds of things.
Daniel?
So first, Wizard Academy.
Yeah, what is
That's where I came from. Talk about that real quick.
Not
Wizard
Hogwarts.
Academy is a business school for entrepreneurs. That's it. We try to take what talented people do in business intuitively, show you why it works, and teach you how to do it on purpose. That's it.
That's cool.
We're down in South Austin. We do 2 or 3 day classes, and we bring in people. We have rules about teaching. You can't teach unless you're doing. So if you're going to teach us how to do digital marketing, you have to take time off from doing digital marketing and then come teach it to us and then go back and do digital marketing. But the ridiculous thing that we're doing right now is trying to raise money for a new poop box, otherwise known as a septic tank in the industry.
I was like, I'm learning some new whiskey vocab today.
Yeah.
Must have something to do with distilling.
No, we needed a new septic tank according to the county, and so we're raising money to fund it. And it's I should have brought it. I left it at the house. If everybody donates $100, gets this little coin that on one side has the Wizard Academy logo, and on the other side it says, "I'm number 2."
Oh, nice. Yeah,
How much money was that?
$100.
$100.
For $100.
Well worth it.
You too can be number 2. And also when you come visit, you won't have to poop in the woods.
Yeah.
Because we have a poop box.
Yeah. That's the real payoff.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I understand about that specific property, it is a nonprofit and it's gorgeous. So if you hire a contractor, the same as my house is quite large, and somebody comes over and says, "You must have money."
I'm going to bid this job real high.
So you have that challenge finding contractors that understand, that you're not poor, but you're living from donor to donor, donation to donation.
Nonprofit, hence the name, nonprofit. Yeah.
So how do you get the financing, and how do you get that all put together to get the right pieces in place to build a poop box?
Yeah. You don't let them see the property before they bid. That's
Right.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as they walk out there, they're like, "Oh, okay," and their bid goes up 40% in their head.
Right.
Yeah.
But not on paper. That's the important part.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
your position is...
I'm the chancellor at Wizard Academy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which I had to look
That's
up
a
when I
great
first
word.
got to the campus. It's basically the educational version of CEO. Right, so like there's a chancellor at University of Texas,
Right.
yeah, it just means you're the CEO effectively. That's the shortest
Cool.
version.
That's great explanation. I never knew what that word meant. I use it all the time.
You're just in charge of things.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's cool.
Yeah, if everything goes to shit, it's your fault.
Yeah. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I know about that.
You are where the buck
It's like
stops.
it's like being
That's
a
what it-
business owner.
Yeah.
That's my
exactly
job.
what it is.
I'm the Chancellor of West China Tea. Yeah, I guess
Yes.
in that
You
in that
should
sense.
change your business cards.
Well, also the Chinese word for tea is cha, so CHA cha. So
just call yourself Chancellor Cha.
The Chancellor.
The Chancellor.
The Chancellor. Just put the
Cha
Chinese
dash.
character and then NCELLOR. Yeah, I love the Wizard Academy. It is gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning, and also. I remember the first time I went to the vault with this guy and got the tour, and it was what a tour it was. I literally only ever drink when I'm doing this show, and maybe a beer like every 2 weeks, less than every 2 weeks. So I have a pretty low alcohol tolerance in a general sense. Although in my day I did not, but nowadays I drink very little. So I went to this whiskey, the whiskey tour, the whiskey vault tour, and I ended up talking in an Irish accent, made a video doing that, and the whole memory is like some kind of dream because I was like, this place is crazy. Am I in a giant barrel right now? I think I am. Oh, there's a steering wheel in this secret room. Like, what's going on? And I think back on that trip, I'm like, it was like this wonderful, sparkly dream.
That's how I feel going to work every day.
Yeah, it's great. It's lovely.
And yeah, that's one of the things that that the Wizard Academy actually brings out, and it serendipitously, on purpose, when you're on that campus, every little corner has a little secret, a little hidden gem, and so it's just an incredible place to visit. And if you have the opportunity, there's a number of different courses available right now. Which one would you like to talk about?
If you started anywhere at Wizard Academy, it would be the Magical Worlds of Communication. That's the cornerstone 3-day marketing course. That is the fundamentals that built everything we do.
Wow.
Full stop. That's the one. Yeah.
Cool. And thank you for being here for our first episode in 8 weeks. And Sohan, we're looking forward to
Yes,
the
thank
new
you.
tea house. And you're dealing with the same construction issues at the moment?
Yeah, you are.
Oh yeah. Well, we can commiserate about that. In the next episode. Yeah.
Yes, we shall.
Cheers,
Cheers.
gentlemen.
Thanks
Cheers
for
to
coming.
you.